When a young airline worker named Petra showed up for her shift at Gate 14 in Fresno, California, she had no idea that the next 40 minutes would change her life forever. It was an ordinary Tuesday morning. The carpet was gray. The lights buzzed overhead. The coffee cart had been broken since September. Nothing about Gate 14 ever felt important. Then a tall man walked through the sliding glass doors. He moved slowly, the way someone moves when they have learned that slow and steady wins every race worth winning. Dark jacket, worn boots, one small olive green bag. His face had deep lines carved into it by decades of sun and time. His eyes were the color of the ocean just before a storm. People in line looked at him the way you look at something you recognize but cannot quite name. He walked straight to Petra's counter and placed his passport down. She scanned it. Her screen flashed red. She looked at the passport. She looked at the screen. She looked at the man standing in front of her. And then Petra Vasquez, 26 years old, working her third week of back-to-back morning shifts, hands already shaking from 4 nights of bad sleep, said 6 words to one of the most famous men on the planet. "I can't let you board." The man was Clint Eastwood, 94 years old, actor, director, legend. A man who had stared down every kind of trouble the world could throw at a person across nearly a century of living. And he did not raise his voice. He did not argue. He did not perform his frustration for the growing crowd behind him. He simply looked at Petra with those storm gray eyes, said 2 quiet words. "Take your time," picked up his bag, walked to the nearest plastic chair, sat down and waited. The crowd went completely silent. A college student near the back stopped recording on her phone, not because anyone asked her to, but because something about the moment made it feel wrong to film. A mother hushed her twin boys with just one look. A businessman in a suit put his phone face down on his knee and did not pick it up again. 31 people, all of them still, all of them watching. And behind the counter, Petra was on hold with the reservations line, face flushed red, hands trembling, trying to fix a booking glitch, while the weight of everyone's silence pressed down on the room like something sacred. But here is the thing nobody in that terminal knew, not the mother with the twins. Not the college student, not the businessman, not even Petra herself. Clint Eastwood had not come to Fresno by accident. He was carrying something he had been trusted to deliver to exactly the right person, something a dying woman had written from her hospital bed, 5 pages, small, neat handwriting, and placed in his hands with one instruction: find whoever needs this most. He had spent 3 days searching this city, libraries, markets, diners. He had looked into the faces of strangers and waited for the feeling Marisol had promised him would come. It had not come, until this morning, until a young woman at Gate 14 told him he could not board his flight and kept her voice kind while her hands shook. And what Clint did next, what he said, what he handed her, what was inside that envelope, and the secret hidden inside it that nobody discovered until weeks later, is a story that will stay with you long after this video ends. Watch this all the way through, because the most important part is not the moment at the counter. It is not even the letter. It is the truth about how this whole thing was set up, who planned it, how they did it, and why. That will completely change the way you see everything you just heard. Stay with us. It starts right now. It happened on a Tuesday. Gate 14 at Harmon Cole Regional Airport in Fresno, California, was not the kind of place where history was made. It had gray carpet the color of old chewing gum. The plastic chairs were bolted to the floor so hard it seemed like someone was afraid they might escape. A single vending machine sat in the corner and always ate dollar bills without giving anything back. The lights overhead buzzed like tired bees. The coffee cart had been broken since September. Nobody famous ever came through Gate 14 until the morning of November 7th. At 6:42 in the morning, a tall man walked through the sliding glass doors of the terminal. He moved slowly, but not weak slowly. He moved like a man who had learned, after a very long time, that slow and steady wins every race worth winning. He wore a dark canvas jacket that had seen better days, faded jeans, and leather boots that had walked more miles than most people drive in a whole lifetime. He carried one small bag, a soft duffel in olive green. nothing else. His face was the kind that people recognize even when they are not sure why. Deep lines had been carved into his skin by sun and years, and the weight of things lived through. His eyes were the color of the ocean just before a storm, gray-blue and steady and very hard to look away from. His jaw was set like the front of a mountain, solid, unhurried. People in the terminal looked at him the way you look at something you know you have seen before, but you cannot quite put your finger on where. He walked straight to the check-in counter at gate 14 and set his duffel bag on the floor. "Good morning," he said. The airline agent behind the counter looked up from her screen. Her name tag said Petra in bold black letters on a white background with a small cartoon plane next to the P. She was young, maybe 26, with dark curly hair pulled back tight and glasses that were just a little too big for her face. She had been working the morning shift for 3 weeks without a break because 2 of her coworkers had called in sick and the airline had not found anyone to replace them yet. Petra was tired. Petra was stressed. Petra had not slept more than 5 hours in the past 4 nights. She looked at the man. She did not recognize him. "Boarding pass and ID, please," she said. The man reached into the inside pocket of his jacket. He pulled out a passport, dark blue, worn soft at the corners, and placed it on the counter. Petra picked it up. She scanned it. She looked at her screen. Then she looked at the passport again. Then back at the man. "Sir," she said slowly, "I'm sorry. I can't let you board this flight." The man did not move. He did not raise his voice. He did not sigh or roll his eyes or tap the counter with impatient fingers. He just looked at her, those gray-blue eyes steady as rocks in a river, and said very quietly, "Why not?" Behind him, a line of 20 passengers had already formed. A young mother was trying to keep her twin boys from pulling each other's hair. An older man in a suit was checking his watch for the 3rd time in 2 minutes. A college student near the back had enormous headphones around her neck, and her phone already pointed at the counter. "Because," Petra said, and she held the passport low so only the man could read the name on the screen. "This ticket was purchased under the name Clint Eastwood. Your passport confirms that is your name. But our system flagged the booking this morning as a possible duplicate. 2 tickets were purchased for the same seat. I cannot let you board until I figure out which one is real." The whispers started instantly. "Did she say Clint Eastwood? No way, is that actually him? Look at him, that is him." Clint Eastwood, the real one, 94 years old, director and actor and legend, a man who had stared down every kind of trouble the world could throw at him across nearly a century of living, looked at the young woman behind the counter. He looked at her tired eyes. He noticed the way her hands shook just slightly as she held his passport. And then he did something that nobody in that line expected. He smiled. It was small, just the very corner of his mouth. But it was real, the kind of smile you cannot fake. "Take your time," he said. He picked up his duffel bag. He walked to the nearest plastic chair. He sat down, folded his hands in his lap, and waited. The line went quiet. The twin boys stopped fighting. The man in the suit stopped looking at his watch. The college student's phone stayed up, but she was very, very still. Petra stared at her screen. Her face had gone the color of a ripe strawberry. She had no idea that the next 40 minutes would change her life forever. She had no idea that Clint Eastwood had planned every single second of this, and she had absolutely no idea about the letter. Petra Vasquez had not wanted to be an airline agent. When she was 7 years old, she had wanted to be a marine biologist. She had a poster of a blue whale on her bedroom wall, and a library card she used so often the laminate had worn clean off. When she was 12, she had decided she wanted to be a teacher, the kind who actually listened when kids talked, not just waited for them to stop. When she was 17, she had wanted to be a nurse because her grandmother, Abuela Rosa, had gotten very sick, and the nurses who looked after her had been the kindest people Petra had ever seen up close. But life does not always let you go where you plan. Petra's father, Domingo Vasquez, had been a mechanic for 31 years. He fixed cars the way a surgeon fixes people, with care and patience and a kind of quiet pride that never needed anyone else to notice it. He was good at his job. He was proud of his job. Then one winter, a car slipped from its jack while he was working underneath it. He survived, But his left hand did not work the way it used to after that, and neither did the part of him that had always stood tall. Her mother, Claudette, worked 2 jobs, days at a dry cleaner, 3 evenings a week at a grocery store. She always smelled like steam and lavender. She never complained, not once, not in front of the children. Petra was the oldest of 4. When the time came to think about college, she thought instead about the electric bill. She thought about her father's quiet at the dinner table. She thought about her mother's hands, dry and red from the steam and the cold water. She made her choice the way people make choices when they love their family more than they love their own plans. She took the airline job because it paid well enough, had health insurance, and offered flight benefits someday, which meant maybe, just maybe, she could save up and take her parents somewhere they had never been. Her father had always wanted to see the ocean in real life, not a photograph, not a television screen, the real thing right there in front of him. She had been working Gate 14 for 8 months. Those 8 months had taught her things no school had ever tried to. She had learned how to talk someone back from a panic attack in a crowded terminal without drawing attention to them. She had once reunited a lost 5-year-old with a grandmother who had flown in from Guatemala and spoke no English at all, and Petra spoke no Spanish, and they had figured it out anyway through pointing and tears and relief so big it had no language. She had physically caught a man who fainted at her counter and made sure he did not hit the floor. She was good at her job. She cared about people. On the outside, though, she looked like someone who was barely holding things together, which today she was. She stared at the screen. The duplicate booking glitch was real. She had not invented it. It happened sometimes when third-party travel websites booked tickets through the airline system and the 2 computers failed to connect properly. Normally, it took about 5 minutes to sort out. You called the reservations line, you matched the numbers, you cleared the flag, done. But today, the hold music had been playing for 11 minutes, and the man whose ticket was flagged was Clint Eastwood, and 23 people were in line behind him. And someone's phone near the back was definitely still pointing her way. She pressed her hands flat on the counter to make them stop shaking. "Hey!" She looked up. It was not Clint Eastwood. It was a woman, maybe 60 years old, short and round-shouldered, wearing a bright yellow cardigan and carrying a canvas bag that read, "Books are better in bed," in big block letters. She had stepped slightly out of the line, not cutting it, just leaning toward the counter the way someone leans toward a person who needs to be leaned toward. "Honey," the woman said, in a voice like warm bread fresh from the oven, "you're doing fine. Just breathe." Petra blinked. "I'm sorry. You look like you're about to fall through the floor," the woman said. "Not mean, just honest. You're doing a good job. We can all see that." Petra did not know what to say. Nobody had said anything like that to her in weeks, maybe longer. "Thank you," she managed. I'm almost sorted." The woman in the yellow cardigan smiled and stepped back into line. Petra looked across the waiting area. Clint Eastwood was still in the plastic chair. He was not on his phone. He was not sighing loudly. He was not doing the thing that most people did when they felt held up. That slow, loud performance of being inconvenienced, where every shift of the body is saying, "Do you know how important my time is?" He was just sitting, his hands folded in his lap, his eyes looking at nothing in particular, the way very old men's eyes sometimes do when they are not looking at what is in front of them at all, but at something only they can see. Petra found herself wondering what he was thinking about. She found herself wondering what, if anything, scared him. Then the hold music stopped. "Thank you for calling Meridian Air Reservations. This is Darnell. How can I help?" Petra grabbed her headset. "Hi, Darnell. This is Petra. Gate 14, Fresno. I've got a duplicate flag on a booking, and I need it cleared before this flight boards. Booking reference." She read out the number, heard keys clicking. "Got it," Darnell said. "Yeah, that's a third-party glitch. TravelBridge does this. Pushing the clearance to your terminal now." "Thank you," Petra said. She watched the red flag on her screen disappear like a bad dream fading in daylight. She looked up at Clint Eastwood. He was already rising from the chair. She had not called his name. She had not waved. But he had known. Somehow he had felt the moment shift before she said a word. As if 94 years of paying attention had given him a kind of quiet radar, for when things were about to change. She picked up his passport. She scanned it again. The light went green. "Mr. Eastwood," she said carefully, "I'm very sorry for the wait. You're all cleared. You can board whenever you're ready." He took his passport back. He picked up his duffel bag from the floor. Then he stopped. He looked at her. Really looked at her. The way almost nobody looks at a person behind a service counter. Not at her uniform, not at her name tag. At her. "What's your name?" he asked. "Petra," she said. "Petra Vasquez." He nodded. Once, slowly, like he was placing her name somewhere careful inside his memory, somewhere it would not get lost. "Thank you, Petra Vasquez," he said. He turned and walked toward the gate, but he did not board the plane. The gate area went strange. That is the only word for it. Strange. Like the air pressure changed. Like the whole room took a slow breath and then forgot to let it go. The boarding announcement had just played over the intercom in that flat, cheerful voice all airport intercoms use no matter what they are saying. Meridian Flight 418, nonstop service to Los Angeles, now boarding Group 1 passengers. Group 1 had started to move. People gathering bags, sliding laptops into backpacks, standing up from the bolted-down chairs with the stiff, careful movements of people who had been sitting too long. But Clint Eastwood had not joined them. He had walked past the line of Group 1 passengers, past the jetway door, past the big window that looked out at the tarmac. He had gone all the way to the far corner of the gate area, a row of chairs that nobody ever sat in because they faced the wall instead of the room. And he had set his duffel bag down on the floor. He had sat in the chair nearest the window, and he had reached into the inside pocket of his jacket and taken something out. Not a phone, not a book, a photograph. He held it in both hands and looked at it the way you look at something that is precious and painful at exactly the same time. The way you look at the very last photograph of someone who is never coming back. People noticed. Of course they noticed. This was Clint Eastwood, 94 years old, one of the most recognized faces on the planet, sitting alone in a plastic airport chair at 6:50 in the morning, holding a photograph, and making no move at all to board the plane that was right there, 10 feet away, waiting for him. The college student near the back of the line, her name was Juno, short for Juniper, 19 years old, studying film at Fresno State, a young woman who had never in her life seen a moment she did not want to record, had her phone raised. She was filming. Her thumb was ready. Then she stopped. She could not explain exactly why. It just felt wrong. It felt like walking into a room where someone was quietly crying and immediately pointing a camera at them. There are things in this world that you are allowed to watch, and there are things you are only allowed to feel. She put her phone in her pocket. The mother with the twin boys. Her name was Adiz. And she had been doing everything by herself for 2 years since her husband Jerome had taken a work contract in Malaysia, and they were still figuring out whether the distance between them was temporary or permanent. Told her boys, Kofi and Kwame, in a very quiet voice, to sit down and be still. Kofi opened his mouth. Adiz looked at him. He closed it. They sat. The man in the suit, his name was Wendell, 61 years old, branch manager at a mid-sized bank. A man who had flown more than 200 times and had long ago stopped seeing airports as anything other than obstacles between himself and wherever he needed to be. Put his phone face down on his knee. He did not check it again. He did not know why. His thumbs just stopped. The woman in the yellow cardigan, Rosabelle, who had taught third grade for 34 years and knew a significant moment when she saw one, sat very still and watched with calm, patient eyes. There were 31 people in the gate area. Every single one of them had gone quiet. It was a rare kind of quiet, the kind that cities never have, the kind that settles over an open hillside just before the sun comes all the way up. Petra, from behind her counter, could see him. She had been processing the last few boarding passes on autopilot, her hands doing the job while her mind was somewhere else entirely. She watched Clint Eastwood hold the photograph. She watched his face. It did not crumple. It did not break. It was still and steady and very, very heavy, with something she recognized even from across the room. Loss. She had grown up watching his films. Her father loved them, westerns mostly, the kind where the hero did not need to explain himself because everything he did said it for him. Sunday evenings on the old secondhand television, her father on the couch, young Petra curled up beside him, not always understanding the plots, but always understanding the feeling that there are people in the world who do hard things because the hard things are right, who show up whether anyone is watching or not. She had never thought until this moment that the man in those films might also be someone who sat very still in the mornings and carried something heavy and quiet inside him. She had thought of him as a figure, something like a mountain in the distance. He looked right now like a person. Group 2 was called over the intercom. Clint Eastwood did not move. Group 3. Then Group 4. The gate area emptied slowly, one person at a time, until only a small number remained. Rosabelle was still there. Adaze had made it onto the plane with Kofi and Kwame at the very last of Group 4. Wendell had gone. Juno had gone. But Rosabelle stayed. And Petra stayed, of course. Petra was not going anywhere. The plane was ready. The jetway door was still open. Theo, the gate agent posted at the door, 23 years old, only 3 months into the job, with large ears and an honest face that showed everything he was thinking, looked across the room at Petra with wide eyes and mouthed 2 silent words. "What now?" Petra gave the smallest shake of her head. "Wait." She came around from behind the counter. She did not think about whether this was her job. She did not look at the clock. She did not calculate. She just walked across the empty gray carpet, past the vending machine that $8 bills, past the broken coffee cart, to the far corner of the gate area where an old man was sitting alone with a photograph. She stopped beside his chair. She did not sit down. Not yet. She just stood there and let her shadow fall across the floor next to his and spoke in a voice soft enough to belong only to him. "Mr. Eastwood," she said, "we're going to need to close the door soon." He looked up from the photograph. His eyes were dry, but there was something sitting behind them, deep and still and old, like a word that has been held in the mouth for so long it has started to change shape. "I know," he said. He did not move. Petra looked at the photograph in his hands. She did not stare. She just let her eyes rest on it for one quiet second. A woman in a yellow dress, laughing at something just outside the frame, standing in front of a door painted the color of a summer apple. "Is there something I can do?" Petra asked. He looked at her for a long moment, a real look, the kind that takes its time. "Sit down," he said. Petra sat. She sat in the plastic chair right next to Clint Eastwood, close enough to hear him breathing, and she looked at the photograph he was still holding in both hands, and she felt, not for the first time that morning, that her day had stopped following any map she had ever been given. The photograph was of a woman. She looked maybe 40 in the picture, though it was hard to say for certain. She was standing in front of a door painted bright red, the color of a summer apple, exactly as Petra had noticed from across the room. She was laughing, not a polite smile for a camera. A real laugh, the kind that gets away from you, head tipped back just slightly, eyes creased at the corners. Whatever had made her laugh was just outside the frame, and you could almost feel it there, just out of reach. She wore a yellow dress. She looked like a person who laughed easily, the kind of person who made a room feel warmer simply by walking into it. Her name was Marisol, Clint Eastwood said. He said it the way you say a name that still costs you something every single time it leaves your mouth. "She was my daughter's best friend," he said, "from when they were 9 years old. She used to come to our house every weekend without fail. She had this way of walking through the front door and making the whole house feel louder. Not noisy, just more alive, like someone had turned up the color on everything." He paused. Outside the big window, a luggage cart rolled slowly across the tarmac below. 2 ground crew workers in orange vests walked behind it, talking to each other about something that made one of them laugh. "She grew up," Clint continued, "got married, had 2 boys of her own, moved to Fresno about 15 years ago because her husband got a job here." He looked down at the photograph. "Good man. His name is Ruben." "What happened to her?" Petra asked. She did not plan the question. It just came out. The way the real questions always do. The ones that matter, when you stop being careful and start being honest. She got sick, he said. Last year. Real sick and real fast. The kind that does not give you time to argue with it, or make deals with it, or pretend it is not coming. He turned the photograph over in his hands, then turned it back. She passed in March. I'm sorry, Petra said. She meant it the way it is only sometimes meant. All the way down, with nothing held back. She asked me to come, he said. Before she died, she asked me specifically to come to Fresno. She had an idea about her boys. He stopped for a moment, looked out at the tarmac. Ruben is doing fine. He is a strong man. But Marisol, she wanted someone to sit with her boys and tell them something. She wanted them to know that life is big, that it gets bigger the more you walk into it, not smaller. She wanted someone they would remember telling them that. He looked at his hands. She asked me to be that someone. Petra felt something move inside her chest, the kind of move that happens just before tears come. She held them back. So you came to Fresno, she said. I came to Fresno, he said. I spent 3 days here, had dinner with Ruben and the boys. Their names are Thomas and Felix, 12 and 9. Good kids, real good kids, the kind that make you feel hopeful about things. A small something crossed his face. Not quite a smile, but close. I told them everything their mother wanted them to hear. Everything she had written down for me in a letter before she went. Petra went very still. She wrote you a letter? She said. She did. 5 pages. Small handwriting, very neat. She always did a lot with a small space. He looked at Petra steadily. But the letter was not only for the boys. The air between them changed. Petra felt it before she fully understood it. A shift, like a key turning somewhere deep. Marisol wrote a second letter, he said. Not for Ruben, not for the boys, for a stranger. He reached into the inside pocket of his jacket with slow, careful fingers. She asked me to find one person in this city who needed to read it. Someone she had never met. Someone she somehow already knew existed. He shook his head once, slowly. I know how that sounds. It doesn't sound strange, Petra said quietly, and she meant that too. She told me to trust my instincts, he said. She wrote it right there in the instructions she gave me. That I would know the right person when I met them, that it would not be something I figured out. It would be something I felt. He paused. I have been in this city for 3 days. I went to the library. I went to the farmer's market on Morrow Street. I sat in the diner on the corner of 5th for 2 hours one morning watching people come and go. He looked down at his boots. Old leather, worn honest. But the feeling never came. I could not find it. He looked at her. Petra felt the look land somewhere beneath her ribs. And then this morning, he said, a young woman at gate 14 had to tell me I could not board my flight. And instead of making me feel small, the way tired, overstretched people sometimes do when they have a little authority and a lot of pressure, she kept her voice kind. Her hands were shaking, but her voice was kind. And when I walked away and sat down, she watched me. He stopped. Not the way people watch someone famous, the way people watch someone they are genuinely worried about. Petra could not speak. I have been looking in the big places, he said quietly. Parks, markets, libraries. Marisol always told me the right people are in the ordinary places. Doing the ordinary work. I should have listened sooner. He pulled the envelope from his pocket. It was cream-colored, sealed, slightly worn at one corner from being carried. On the front, in small and very neat handwriting, 4 words for whoever needs this most. He held it out to Petra. I think she meant you, he said. Petra looked at the envelope. She looked at those 4 words. She looked at the handwriting of a woman she had never met and would never meet. A woman who had stood in front of a red door in a yellow dress and laughed at something just outside the frame. Her hands were shaking again, but not the way they had been shaking this morning at the counter, under the buzzing lights, with the hold music in her ear. This was entirely different. This was the kind of shaking that happens when something true finds you in a place you were not expecting to be found. She reached out. She took the envelope. Theo, the gate agent, walked over. He had been standing at the jetway door for the past several minutes, watching from a careful distance the way a person watches something they do not fully understand, but can tell is important. His boarding door was still open. His clipboard had the final passenger count on it. His job right now was to close that door. But his feet would not move toward it. He was 23 years old. He had large ears and an honest face that showed everything he was feeling at all times, which had made school difficult and adulthood only slightly easier. He had been working at Gate 14 for exactly 3 months and 11 days, and in that time he had seen a lot of things. Crying children, missed connections, a man who tried to bring a full-size ironing board through security, but he had never seen anything like this. He crossed the carpet slowly and stopped a few feet from Petra's chair. He looked at Petra. He looked at Clint Eastwood. He looked at the cream-colored envelope now sitting in Petra's hands. Then he looked at the open jetway door behind him, and then back at Petra. And his face did the thing it always did. It showed every single thing he was thinking. "Ms. Vasquez," he said carefully, "I need to close the door in 3 minutes." Clint Eastwood stood up. He did it slowly, the way he did everything. Not weak, not struggling, just unhurried. Like a man who had long ago made his peace with the fact that his body moved differently now than it once had, and had decided that was perfectly all right. He had lived 94 years in this body. It had carried him through deserts and film sets, and grief and joy, and everything in between. It had earned the right to take its time. He reached down and picked up his olive duffel bag from the floor. He looked at Theo. "You're doing a fine job, son," he said. Theo blinked. His mouth opened slightly. Then he straightened up just a little. "Not much, but enough." "Thank you, sir," he said. Clint looked at Petra one last time. His storm gray eyes moved to the envelope in her hands and then back to her face. "Don't open it here," he said. His voice was quiet, meant only for her. "Wait until you have some quiet around you." Marisol wrote it to be read in quiet. "I will," Petra said. She meant it with everything she had. "And Petra," he said. She looked up at him. "Whatever it is you are carrying right now." He paused, not searching for words, just making sure the ones he chose were exactly right. "Whatever it is that makes your hands shake in the morning and keeps you from sleeping at night." Marisol knew about that, not yours specifically, but she knew that the person who would get that letter would be someone carrying something heavy. She wrote about that in the letter itself. He looked at her steadily. She knew. Petra could not find a single word, not one. They had all gone somewhere she could not reach. He nodded once, the way he always nodded. Slow, final, certain. Then he turned and walked to the jetway door, and Theo scanned his boarding pass with slightly shaking hands, and the green light came on, and Clint Eastwood walked down the jetway. The door closed behind him with a soft, clean click. Petra did not move for a moment. She sat in the plastic chair with the envelope in her lap and the hum of the terminal all around her, and she just let herself be very still. The way you are still after something large has passed through. The gate area was nearly empty now. Rosabelle was still there. She had not even tried to board. She sat in a chair 2 rows away. Her books are better in bed canvas bag on her knee, watching Petra with the calm, patient eyes of a woman who had spent 34 years knowing when to speak and when to simply be present. She spoke now. "I have been teaching children for 34 years, Rosabelle said from across the quiet room, and I still believe that the best lessons happen when nobody planned them." She stood up slowly and smoothed the front of her yellow cardigan. "Whatever just happened here, it was important. You know that, don't you?" "I think so," Petra said. "You do know it," Rosabelle said firmly. "Not unkind, just certain. You just need a little time to catch up to yourself." She glanced out the big window at the plane beginning to ease slowly back from the gate, its engines starting their low, deep hum. "I'll take the next flight. Some things in this life are worth missing a plane for." She smiled at Petra, warm and wide and completely unhurried, and then walked away toward the rebooking desk at the end of the terminal, humming something soft and familiar that Petra could not quite name. Theo appeared at Petra's shoulder. He looked at the envelope. He looked at her face. He looked at the envelope again. Was that really, he started. Yes, Petra said. And did he actually just, yes, she said again. Theo stood there quietly for a moment, processing. What's in the envelope? He asked. Petra looked down at the 4 neat words on the front written in the handwriting of a woman she had never met and now somehow felt she had known for years. For whoever needs this most. I'm not sure yet, she said, but I'm going to find out. She stood up from the plastic chair. She called her supervisor Gail, a reasonable woman, 20 years with the airline, a woman who had seen most things and remained unshakable through all of them, and said only that there had been an unusual situation and she needed 15 minutes. Gail said fine. Petra walked to the far end of the terminal. She pushed open the door to the women's restroom. It was empty. The lights buzzed overhead the way airport lights always buzz. There was a small wooden bench near the sinks, the kind put there so parents could sit while their children washed their hands. She sat on the bench. She looked at herself in the mirror on the wall. Dark circles, hair escaping its knot in 3 places. Uniform still straight. She always kept the uniform straight no matter what else was falling apart. That had been her mother's voice in her head since she was small. Keep yourself together on the outside, mija. It helps the inside hold on. She looked at the envelope in her hands. She thought about a woman named Marisol who had stood in front of a red door in a yellow dress and laughed at something just outside the frame. A woman who had known she was dying. A woman who had spent some of that precious shrinking time thinking about a stranger she would never meet. She pressed her thumb under the sealed flap. She opened the envelope. The letter began, "Hello, stranger. I hope you won't be a stranger for long." Petra read those 7 words 3 times before she read any further. She felt something loosen inside her chest. Something she had not even known was pulled tight until this very moment, like a knot she had carried so long and so quietly that she had forgotten it was a knot at all. She had just started to think of it as herself. She kept reading. Marisol Okonkwo. She had taken her husband Ruben's last name when they married, and she was proud of it, genuinely and openly proud, and she mentioned this in the very first paragraph because she had always believed that the things you choose freely deserve to be said out loud. Had been a school counselor for 21 years. For 21 years, she had worked with children who were going through things that were too big for them. Children who had lost parents. Children who had been let down by the adults who were supposed to hold them. Children who had stopped speaking because the world had given them too many reasons to go quiet. Marisol had a gift with those children. Not a trick, not a technique, a gift. She could sit with a child who had not spoken in weeks and simply be in the room with them. Not pushing, not filling the silence with the kind of helpful words that are really just noise. And eventually, slowly, the child would speak. Because she made the silence feel safe. Because she made the child feel like they were not a problem to be fixed, but a person to be known. She wrote about one boy in particular. His name was Cristobal. He was 8 years old. His mother had left one November, and he had not spoken a single word to anyone for 3 months after. Not to teachers, not to friends, not to the counselor before Marisol. Then one Tuesday morning, he had walked into Marisol's office, sat down in the small blue chair across from her desk, and said very quietly, "Miss Marisol, I think I'm going to be okay." And Marisol had said, "I know, Cristobal. I have known for a little while now." He had cried for 20 minutes. Then he had wiped his face with both hands, stood up, and gone back to class. And he had been okay. In the slow and real and wobbly way that people are actually okay. Not the performed kind that everyone else prefers, because it is easier to look at. Marisol wrote that she was telling this story because she wanted whoever was reading to understand something important. You are not here to be okay for everyone else all the time. You are allowed to be the one who needs the quiet office. You are allowed to be the one who cries for 20 minutes and then goes back. You are allowed on the days when it is simply too heavy to put the heavy thing down on the floor and rest beside it for a while. Petra's eyes went wet. She let them. She did not wipe them away. She just let them be there, the way you let rain fall because there is no point in arguing with rain. Marisol wrote about her boys. She wrote about Thomas, who was 12 and loved dinosaurs with the passion of a courtroom lawyer, and would argue about them for hours with anyone patient enough to disagree. She wrote about Felix, who was 9 and who sang everything. He would sing what he wanted for breakfast. He would sing when he was bored sitting in the car. He would sing himself all the way to sleep. And she wrote that this was both completely maddening and the most beautiful sound she had ever heard in her entire life. She wrote about Reuben, about how he made her coffee every single morning without being asked, without comment, without needing to be thanked, about how he held her hand during bad movies and never once said they were bad, about how in the last weeks of her life, he slept every single night in the chair beside her hospital bed. Not in a proper bed, not in the cot the nurses offered him, but in the chair, upright, so he could reach her hand in the dark without getting up. And when the nurses asked him each morning if he was all right, he always said yes, and she always knew it was a lie. And she loved him so deeply and so completely for that lie that some mornings, it was the thing that made her feel most alive. Then the letter said this, and Petra had to stop and breathe. I am not afraid of what comes next. I know that surprises people when I say it, but I have spent 21 years watching children survive the unsurvivable. I have learned from all of them, from Cristobal and from the hundreds of children like him, that there is always more road ahead than you can see from where you are standing. Always, even when you cannot feel it, the road is there. Petra set the pages down on her knee for a moment. She looked at her own reflection in the mirror across the room. Wet eyes, loose hair, straight uniform. She thought about her father, about Domingo at the dinner table in the evenings. Quiet in the particular way he had been quiet since the accident. Not the peaceful kind of quiet, but the kind that has a weight to it, the kind that sits in a room and changes the air. She had never once asked him if he was sad. She had been afraid of the answer. She had been afraid that if she opened that door, something would come through it that she would not know how to hold. And he had never asked her either. Two people, she thought. Two people who loved each other more than anything else in the world. Both of them holding everything up. Both of them doing it in separate rooms. Both of them so busy caring that neither of them had ever thought to simply put something down. She picked up the pages and kept reading. Marisol had written about Clint. She called him Uncle Clint. Explained warmly that he was not actually her uncle, but had been such a constant and solid presence through her whole childhood that she had always thought of him the way you think of a very old oak tree. Not exciting, not loud, just always there, rooted. And she wrote that she had chosen him to carry the letter because she knew without question that he would not make it about himself. He would carry it carefully. He would find the right person. He would know. She wrote, "You will know." Just like that, on its own line, underlined once. Marisol had trusted him completely. The second to last paragraph made Petra's breath catch in her throat and stay there. Dear stranger who is already not a stranger, I do not know your name. I do not know exactly what you are carrying, but I know you are someone who shows up. I know you get out of bed when it is hard. I know you keep going past the point where stopping would be easier and more forgivable. I know this because those are the people in the ordinary places, doing the ordinary work, and I spent my whole life sitting across from people like you and learning that you are everywhere, and that you never get enough credit, and that you carry more than your share, because somewhere inside you is the quiet and stubborn belief that no one else will. Petra's hands were trembling so much she could barely hold the pages. She made herself keep going. She read the last paragraph of Marisol Okonkwo's letter, and then she sat very still on the small wooden bench in the airport bathroom for a long time. And then she took out her phone, and she called her father. He picked up on the second ring. Mija. Her father's voice was rough from early morning and surprise. He never expected her to call during a shift. She never did. In 8 months of working the morning rotation, she had not called him once from the terminal. Is everything okay? Papi, she said. Her voice cracked right down the middle on the second syllable. Just broke open, the way a thing breaks when it has been held too tightly for too long. I want to take you to see the ocean. There was a silence on the line. It was not the silence of a man who had not heard. It was the silence of a man who had heard perfectly and needed a moment to let something that large move through him. The ocean, he said. The real one, Petra said. Not a picture, not the television. The actual water, right there in front of you, as big as it really is. Another silence. Longer this time. And then from the other end of the phone line, from somewhere in the house on Calder Street where Domingo Vasquez had lived for 22 years and fixed engines and raised 4 children and gone quiet after the accident and never once complained. She heard her father cry, not loudly. He was not a loud man. It was the small, careful sound of a person who has been holding something for a very long time and has just finally been given permission to put it down. Petra pressed the phone to her ear and let him. She did not rush him. She did not say it is okay, do not cry, everything is fine. She just stayed on the line and breathed and let her father have the moment that was his to have. After a while, he said, very quietly, "When do we go?" "Soon," she said. "I promise." She meant it in the way that promises mean something when they come from the deepest part of you, not from the polite part. She went back to gate 14. At 40,000 feet, Clint Eastwood sat in seat 3A and looked out the oval window at the clouds below. They were enormous from up here, white and still and piled up like the world's slowest avalanche, lit gold at the edges by the morning sun. He had always loved the clouds from above. You spent your whole life on the ground looking up at them, thinking they were distant and untouchable. Then you got on a plane and suddenly you were among them, and they were just water, just ordinary water, hanging in the air. It always struck him as a good reminder about things that seemed unreachable from a distance. He did not use the in-flight entertainment. He did not open his bag. He did not take out his phone. He sat with his hands folded in his lap, the same way he had sat in the plastic chair at gate 14, and he thought about Marisol. He thought about a Sunday afternoon, 30-some years ago, when she had been maybe 10 or 11. She had come over to the house with his daughter Laurel. She came every weekend, regular as sunrise. And at some point in the afternoon, the two of them had gotten into an argument about something small and sharp, the way children's arguments always are. He had been in the kitchen, only half listening, and then the noise had stopped. He had walked to the doorway to check on them. They were sitting on the living room floor, side by side, shoulders almost touching, not talking, not crying, just sitting together in the quiet, the way only people who truly know each other can sit. Marisol had looked up and seen him standing in the doorway. "It is okay," she had said, very seriously, as if reassuring an adult who needed it. "We are working it out." She had been 10 years old. He had nodded and gone back to the kitchen. She had always known how to work things out. She had always been the one with the patience, the stillness, the certainty that things would come right if you just gave them a little room. He had watched her carry that quality her whole life, from the living room floor to the school counselor's office, and he had marveled at it every time. Some people are born knowing that the most powerful thing you can do in a hard moment is simply stay. The flight attendant appeared beside him, a young man with a bright, genuine smile. His name tag read, Diego, holding a drinks tray with the careful competence of someone who was good at his job and quietly proud of it. "Water, please," Clint said. Diego poured it, set the cup on the tray table. Then he paused and a look crossed his face. The recognizing look, the one Clint had seen 10,000 times. And he opened his mouth and then stopped himself. "Go ahead," Clint said. Diego smiled, a little embarrassed. "My grandfather loves your movies. He is 81 years old and he watches them every Sunday morning without fail. Has done for as long as I can remember." He shook his head. "He would absolutely lose his mind if I told him." "What is his name?" Clint asked. Diego blinked. He had not expected that question. "Aurelio," he said. "Tell Aurelio I said hello," Clint said, "and tell him I am glad the movies meant something to him." Diego looked like a man who had just been handed something he did not know how to carry. "He is going to cry," he said softly. "He cries at everything." "That is not a flaw," Clint said. "That just means things get through to him. The world needs more people like that." Diego nodded once deeply, as if filing that away somewhere important. Then he moved on down the aisle with his tray, a little straighter than he had been before. Clint looked back out the window at the clouds. He reached into his jacket pocket. He pulled out a small white card. Plain, no logo. He had written on it himself in the careful, slightly uneven handwriting of a man whose hands were less steady than they once had been, but who still believed that handwritten things carried more weight than typed ones. The card read, Petra Vasquez, and below her name, a phone number, his personal one, the one he gave to almost nobody. He had written this card 3 days ago, the morning after dinner with Ruben and the boys, before he had even gone to the airport. He had known somehow that he would find the right person. He had trusted Marisol on that the way he had always trusted her on everything. He had written the card in advance, the way you pack an umbrella, not because you know it will rain, but because you know the sky. He had held the card in his hand while he sat in the plastic chair at gate 14. He had held it while he talked to Petra. He had almost set it on the counter beside his passport, but then something had stopped him. He turned the card over in his fingers now, 37,000 feet in the air, thinking about why. He had stopped because the letter was enough. Marisol's letter was the thing. It did not need him adding to it, layering himself on top of it, making the moment about his gesture instead of hers. She had written something true for a stranger, and it had found the right stranger, and that was the whole story. His job was to carry it and deliver it, not to be part of it. He put the card back in his pocket, but he did not let go of it. He sat with his hand wrapped around it, lightly thinking. Because he also knew something else. He knew that people received things, important things, true things, things that changed them in the moment they arrived, and then time passed. The world got loud again. The weight came back slowly, the way cold comes back after you step away from a fire. And sometimes what a person needed was not just the first thing, but a second one, a smaller one. A reminder that the first thing was real. He had another 3 hours before they landed in Los Angeles. He had 3 hours to decide. Outside the window, the clouds fell slowly away below, and the sky above them was the deep, clear blue that only exists at altitude. A blue so clean and so enormous that it made everything beneath it look, just for a moment, like it was exactly the right size, he kept thinking. 3 weeks after that Tuesday in November, a package arrived at gate 14, not at Petra's home address, not at the airline's main office. At gate 14 itself, which was, she had decided since that morning, the most fitting place anything could ever arrive, given everything that had happened there. Her supervisor, Gail, brought it to the counter at the start of the morning shift. Gail was a steady, unflappable woman who had worked for the airline for 20 years and had a face that said she had seen most things and survived all of them. She set the package on the counter in front of Petra and said, "This came for you. Someone brought it to the main welcome desk this morning. Hand-delivered, no return address." Then she walked away without asking any questions, because Gail understood that some things are not hers to ask about. The package was a small canvas bag, blue, the kind you take to a farmer's market or a bookshop. The handles were worn soft from use. It looked like a bag that had lived a full and useful life. Petra picked it up. It was light. She looked inside. There were 3 things. The first was a handwritten note on a plain white card. The handwriting was careful and slightly uneven. The handwriting of a man whose hands had grown less steady with age, but who still believed deeply and without apology that something written by hand meant more than something typed. She recognized it immediately. The note said, "Petra, Marisol would have liked the way you handled that morning. So would I. Enclosed are 2 first-class round-trip tickets to anywhere on the California coast. Use them whenever you are ready. Take whoever you most want beside you when you finally see the ocean. No strings, no fuss, no press, just the water. Clint." Attached to the note was a cream envelope. Inside the envelope were 2 first-class tickets. Monterey, California. Open dated, good for any departure within the next 6 months. She could leave tomorrow. She could leave in May. The tickets did not care. They would wait. Petra had to sit down. She pulled the chair from behind the counter, the one meant for form filling, not for sitting in the middle of a shift. And she sat down and read the note 4 more times. Each time she read it, she found something new to feel. No strings, no fuss, no press, just the water. 12 words. She could not think of a more generous 12 words. The second thing in the blue bag was a book. a small paperback, the kind that has been passed through many hands and loved by all of them. The cover was soft and the spine was gently cracked in 4 places, and the pages had that particular smell, warm and slightly sweet, that books get when they have lived for years in a house full of good light and people who read. It was a collection of real letters, letters written by real people across history during the hardest moments of their lives, during wars and losses and long separations, and the kind of grief that has no clean edges. Throughout the pages, someone had made small pencil marks in the margins. Not words, just small lines, the kind you make when a sentence finds you before you are ready for it. On the inside cover, in handwriting Petra did not recognize at first and then recognized completely, was written, "These helped me when nothing else could. I hope they find you at the right time. Marisol." Petra stopped breathing for a moment. The book had belonged to Marisol. Marisol had read these pages and marked the ones that mattered and written her name on the inside cover. And now it was here, in a blue canvas bag, at Gate 14 in Fresno, in Petra's hands. She pressed the book gently against her chest, the way you hold something that belonged to someone who is gone. Like if you hold it carefully enough, some warmth of them is still in it. She thought about how kindness travels, how it does not stop at the first person it touches, how it keeps moving, person to person, the way light moves when it bounces off mirrors in a long corridor, getting no weaker for the distance, only further. Marisol had written these pencil marks alone, in whatever quiet she could find, in whatever time she had left. And somehow, those marks had made their way here. The third thing in the blue bag was small and slightly unexpected, a photograph. In it, 4 people sat around a dinner table covered in food. A generous, abundant dinner, the kind made only for people you love. Candles in the middle, warm light, someone's home, obviously loved and lived in. On the left side of the table sat Reuben. She had looked him up after that Tuesday morning, in an honest moment of needing to know more of the story. And on either side of him sat 2 boys. Thomas, 12, with his father's serious eyebrows set into a face that was concentrating very hard on something. Felix, 9, mouth wide open, both hands raised mid-song, and everyone else at the table was laughing at him, with him, around him. The way people laugh when they are not performing joy, but simply inside it. And on the right side of the table, in a plain canvas jacket, sat Clint Eastwood, 94 years old. Laughing, not the small corner-of-the-mouth thing he had done at Gate 14. This was the real kind. The kind that takes over the whole face, that gets into the eyes, that happens when something catches you completely off guard and your careful exterior simply gives way. He looked in this photograph like the most ordinary man in the world, like somebody's grandfather at somebody's table on an ordinary evening that happened to be extraordinary. He looked happy. On the back of the photograph, in his handwriting, were these words, "The last night, Felix sang for 40 minutes after dinner, and I have not laughed that hard in longer than I can remember. This is what Marisol wanted. I thought you should see it." Petra set the photograph down on the counter and looked at it for a long time. She thought about what it meant, that Marisol, who had known for months that she was dying, who had a fixed and shrinking amount of time and energy and days, had used some of that time to plan this dinner, this laughter, this photograph traveling in a blue bag to a gate agent in Fresno who she had never met. She had planted all of it carefully, the way a gardener plants in autumn, knowing she will not be there for the spring, because the planting itself is the whole point, because the harvest happens whether you are there to see it or not. Some people, when the end comes, pull inward. They gather what is left of themselves and hold it close because there is not much left and they are afraid. And some people expand. They give more. They reach further. They trust strangers. They write letters. They plan dinners. They put photographs in blue canvas bags and have them delivered to airports. Marisol Okonkwo had been the second kind. That evening, Petra called her father again. She told him everything. The blue bag, the note, the tickets, the book with the pencil marks, the photograph of a table full of people laughing. Domingo listened to all of it without a word. When she finished, there was a silence, full, not empty. And then he said, She sounds like she was a very good person. She was, Poppy, Petra said. She really was. When do we leave? He asked, and Petra laughed, easy and sudden and real. The way a laugh comes when it surprises you. April, she said. Spring in Monterey. I read that the sea otters are out in April. A pause. Otters, her father said slowly, and she could hear the smile spreading across his face from miles away. Your mother always wanted to see an otter. Then she is coming too, Petra said. The silence this time was a different kind entirely. It was the silence of a man standing in the kitchen of his house on Calder Street with his less steady hand pressed flat against the counter and his eyes closed, and something large and good moving through him like the first warm day after a very long winter. Yes, Domingo Vasquez said softly. She is. Juno posted the video on the last day of November. She had wrestled with it for 3 full weeks. The footage sat on her phone like something alive. 47 seconds of an old man walking to a plastic chair and sitting down while a crowd went quiet around him. She had watched it so many times in her dorm room that she had worn a groove in the memory of it. She had fallen asleep more than once with her phone on the pillow beside her, the screen dark, the video waiting. She had not been able to explain, even to herself, why she kept hesitating. Then one morning she woke up and she understood. She had been afraid it would become something small, a clip people laughed at or scrolled past, a thing reduced to a caption and a share count. She was 19 years old and studying film, and she knew, in the deep, serious part of herself, that she did not always show people, that some moments were bigger than the internet. She had been protecting this one, but she also knew that Marisol, a woman she had never heard of, whose name she did not even know yet, would have said, let it go. Let it reach whoever it needs to reach. Trust the road. So she posted it. The caption was simple, just this. When they told Clint Eastwood he couldn't board the flight, Gate 14, Fresno, watch what he does. 12 million views in 4 days, 17 million in a week. The comments came in like a tide, thousands of them, and most of them said some version of the same thing in different words. Look at him. Look at how he just sits down. No anger, no scene, no performance, just patience. When was the last time you saw something like that from anyone? Juno had cropped the footage carefully. You could not see Petra's face. You could not see the conversation in the corner by the window. You could not see the envelope. She had protected the people who had not asked to be seen. She had given the world the moment without giving away the story behind it. That part, she felt, belonged to someone else. But Petra was found anyway. Not named publicly, not exposed, but someone at the airline, well-meaning, not malicious, sent a quiet message to a journalist. The journalist was a woman named Odessa, 41 years old, who wrote for a mid-sized paper and had built her whole career on the belief that the most important stories were always the ones nobody was trying to tell. Odessa called the airline. She spoke to Gail. Gail went to Petra. Petra thought about it for 2 days. She thought about Marisol expanding instead of contracting. She thought about the gardener planting in autumn. She thought about what it means to let something reach whoever it needs to reach. She said yes. The interview was short. Petra did not name Marisol. She did not tell the full story. She did not mention the envelope or the letter or the blue bag or the tickets. Those things were hers. They belonged to a small circle of people who had earned them by being present. She said only this. He was very patient and very kind, and he reminded me just by sitting in that chair that the people who show up every single day in the ordinary places deserve the same patience and the same kindness in return. I try to remember that now. I do not always manage it, but I try. That one paragraph was shared 4.2 million times. Rosabelle, the 3rd grade teacher in the yellow cardigan, read it over her morning coffee and immediately sent a screenshot to her younger sister with one line underneath. I knew it. I was right there and I knew it. Wendell, the branch manager, read it at his desk between meetings. He sat with it for a long time. Then he opened a new document and began writing a letter to his adult son. A letter 3 years overdue. A letter that had been locked in a drawer in his chest until now. It began, I know I have not said this enough. He printed it, addressed the envelope by hand, and walked to the post office on his lunch break and mailed it himself. Adaiz read it to Kofi and Kwame at the dinner table. Kofi said it was pretty cool. Kwame said the old man looked exactly like a cowboy. Adaiz said yes, a little. He does. Then she called Jerome in Malaysia, and they talked for 2 hours. Really talked, the way they had not talked in months, about what it would look like for him to come home. And Theo, 7 months into the job now, taped Petra's quote to the inside panel of the counter in small, neat letters on a card. Right where only the people on his side could see it. Right where he would see it every single morning when the shift started and the lights buzzed on and the first passengers came through the sliding glass doors into the gray-carpeted ordinary world. The vending machine still $8 bills. The coffee cart was still broken. The carpet was still the color of old chewing gum. But something had changed about Gate 14. Not the furniture, not the walls. Something in the quality of the air, in the way the people who worked there moved through their shifts and looked at the passengers who came to their counter. Something that had no name but that you could feel if you paid enough attention. Like a window had been opened somewhere. Like fresh air had found its way in and decided to stay. In April, on a Thursday morning with the sky outside pale and gold and enormous, Petra Vasquez boarded a flight to Monterey, California. She sat in the window seat. Her father sat beside her, his hands folded in his lap, his less steady left hand resting gently on top of his right one, in the particular quiet way it rested now, settled into itself. He was looking out the oval window at the runway with an expression Petra did not have a word for. She was not sure any word existed for it. It was too large for a single word. Her mother, Claudette, sat on his other side, already holding his arm with both of hers, already leaning her head very slightly toward his shoulder, her eyes bright with something that was not quite tears and not quite joy, but lived in the exact warm space between the two. The flight was 2 hours. They arrived at the coast in the late afternoon when the light had gone gold and horizontal and was lying across everything like a gift left on a doorstep. They drove to the water's edge and parked and got out of the car and walked down to where the land stopped and the ocean began. Domingo Vasquez stood at the edge of the Pacific. He did not say anything. He stood very still and let the ocean be exactly as big as it was. He let the sound of it move through him. He let the smell of it, salt and cold and something older than anything he had a name for, fill up his lungs completely. After a long time, he reached out without looking and found his daughter's hand. He held it. Here is what nobody knew. The ticket glitch, the duplicate booking flag that had lit up on Petra's screen at 6:42 in the morning on that Tuesday in November. The red warning that had caused her to pick up Clint Eastwood's passport and say those 6 careful words, "I can't let you board this flight," had not been an accident. It had never been an accident. It had been Marisol. Ruben Okonkwo wrote to Petra 6 weeks after that Tuesday morning. His email was 3 paragraphs long, and he had clearly rewritten it many times before he sent it, because the words had the particular careful quality of words that have been weighed one by one before being set down. He wanted her to know the truth, he said. He thought she deserved to have it. He hoped it would not feel strange. Petra read the email at the kitchen table on a Sunday morning with a mug of coffee going cold beside her because she kept forgetting to drink it. Ruben worked in software. He had spent 22 years in software infrastructure, the deep, invisible plumbing of the digital world, the systems that talk to other systems, the handshakes between computers that most people never think about and never need to. He knew in precise and practical detail exactly which booking websites caused which failures in which airline systems. He knew that TravelBridge caused a duplicate booking flag in Meridian Air's ticketing system nearly every time a certain type of third-party transaction went through. He had used TravelBridge on purpose, because Marisol had asked him to. It was in her letter to him, not the letter she gave to Clint to carry, but the one she wrote for Ruben alone. The private letter, 41 pages long, in her small, neat handwriting, that covered everything from the password to the savings account, to the particular way Felix's hair needed to be combed on school mornings so it would stay flat until at least noon. In that letter, tucked into a section that Ruben had not expected and that had made him sit on the edge of the bed for a long time before he could stand up again, she had written, "When Clint goes to the airport, Book his ticket through TravelBridge. Make the flag happen. I need him to be stopped. Not for long, just long enough to sit, because you know as well as I do that Clint does not sit. He has never sat still in his life. He goes from one thing to the next and he does not rest, and at his age, in this season of his life, someone needs to make him stop for a moment. And the right person will know how to be patient with him when he is stopped. And the patient person will be the right person. And that person gets the letter. She had known. She had designed the delay. She had written the glitch into the plan the same way she wrote everything. Carefully, practically, with complete faith that the pieces would fall where she needed them to fall if she placed them correctly. Marisol Okonkwo, school counselor, wife, mother of 2 boys who sang at breakfast and argued about dinosaurs, woman who stood in front of red doors and yellow dresses and laughed with her whole face, had engineered the entire scene from her hospital bed. She had not left it to chance. She had not left it to fate. She had thought it through with the same patient intelligence she had used her whole life, sitting across from children who needed someone to think carefully about them. She had thought carefully about a stranger she would never meet. She had built the moment so that the stranger could not be missed. Petra read the email 3 times. Then she set her phone face down on the table and looked out the window at the Sunday morning street for a long time. She thought about a woman who had a fixed and shrinking number of days left, and who had used some of them, some of the last and most precious ones, to sit quietly and think, how do I make sure this reaches the right person? How do I make sure it does not get lost? How do I build something true that will keep standing after I am gone? She had thought of the TravelBridge glitch. She had asked Ruben to use it. She had trusted Clint to find the right face in the right ordinary place, and then she had let go. Petra thought about that kind of trust, the wide, strange, open-handed trust of a person who believes, not blindly, not carelessly, but with every piece of evidence her whole life had given her, that people are mostly good, that if you give them the chance to be good, they will take it, that the right person is always in the ordinary place, that the ordinary place is always worth looking. She thought about Gate 14, the gray carpet, the buzzing lights, the vending machine that ate dollar bills and gave nothing back, the coffee cart broken since September, the most ordinary place in the world. She picked up her phone. She wrote back to Ruben. She told him about the ocean, about the late afternoon light lying across the water like a gift, about her father standing very still at the edge of the Pacific, reaching out without looking, finding her hand. She wrote, "Please tell your boys that their mother changed my life." She pressed send. Ruben replied the next morning. His message was 4 words long. "She will be glad." Petra read those 4 words and felt something move through her that she did not have a name for and did not need one. Some things are too real for names. Some things you just carry gently, the way you carry something precious, not in a locked box, not wrapped up tight, but open in your hands where the light can reach it. She put her phone in her pocket. She got up from the table. She went to work. She walked through the sliding glass doors of Harmon Cole Regional Airport in Fresno, California, past the vending machine and the broken coffee cart and the gray carpet, all the way to the end of the terminal, to Gate 14, where the lights buzzed overhead like tired bees, where the morning passengers were already gathering, bags on laps, phones in hands, the whole ordinary human procession of people going from one place to another, carrying their lives with them in 2 pieces of luggage and a personal item that never quite fit in the overhead bin. She went behind the counter. She straightened her uniform. She looked at the first person in line, and she smiled. And that is the story of Gate 14, a dying woman, a letter, a ticket glitch that was never really a glitch, and a young woman with shaking hands who kept her voice kind anyway, and changed more lives than she will ever fully know. Before you go, drop a comment right now and tell us where you're watching from. We have people joining us from all over the world, and we want to hear from you. Whether you are watching from a small town or a big city, from your couch at midnight or your phone on a lunch break, tell us where you are. We read every single one. If this story moved you even a little, if it reminded you that ordinary people in ordinary places are doing extraordinary things every single day, hit that like button right now. It takes 1 second and it tells us to keep finding stories like this one. And if you believe the world needs more kindness, if you think more people should hear stories like Marisol's, like Petra's, like Clint sitting quietly in that plastic chair without a word of complaint, then subscribe to this channel and bring someone with you. Share this video with one person today, just one. Think of it as your own small travel bridge glitch, a little something you set in motion that reaches further than you can see. Now click on the video appearing on your screen right now, because the next story is already waiting for you, and it is worth staying for.